That man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh yeah, we're watching.
I didn't want to address it. I wasn't going to address it. But since the video came out, I feel the need to address it.
3 weeks ago, I decided to watch the New York Knicks face off against the Los Angeles Lakers at Crypto Arena. At that game, I took a video of LeBron James stepping up to Stephen A. Smith. And not only did that clip go absolutely viral, but since then, Stephen A. Smith cannot stop talking about this one incident. Now LeBron James did the funniest thing ever, going on Stephen A. Smith's biggest competition on his network to give an interview of a lifetime that no other reporter was ever able to get from LeBron James, to actually clap back at Stephen A. And this was an instant classic. So make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Almost immediately following this confrontation between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith, Stephen A. wasted no time going on a worldwide press tour talking about this.
My point is, rather than come up to me at courtside, all you had to do was say, yo, I need you to see you after the game. That's all he had to say to me. You didn't do that shit. You said you f***ing with my son. No, I wasn't. I was talking about you. I was talking about you.
What was up with LeBron? He was getting in your grill. What was that?
He thought that I was insulting his son when in fact that is not what I was doing.
Grow up.
I was getting on him.
Now look, I personally think this is 100% appropriate. I mean, you went viral on social media for LeBron James stepping up to you. Obviously, you want to address your side of the argument. It's just really interesting because we would find out that this discussion had to do with LeBron James stepping up for his son Bronny, which in previous videos we discussed how it's kind of interesting how LeBron James set these expectations for Bronny to begin with by hyping him up either in interviews.
He is the most chill, easy, fun kid in the world. He goes to work, he takes care of his body, he reads a little bit, and then he comes back and does the same thing.
Or by tweeting out that his son is better than most players in the NBA, only for him to be frustrated when media personalities are talking about Bronny's game.
We all know that Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad. Bronny James is averaging 0.3 points, 0.3 assists, and 0.4 rebounds.
At the same time, I do understand his perspective because what Stephen A. Smith did here kind of provoked LeBron James to begin with. I'm talking about the clip where Stephen A. Smith is discussing LeBron James's play with Bronny James's lowlights in the background.
I'm not being cruel to Bronny. I'm looking out. Do you want it this way, LeBron? Do you want it this way, Rich Paul? He can't go into the G League and average 20, 25 and stay there until he's ready? Because he's LeBron's son, you know how they're gonna judge him. And before anybody wants to jump on me, remember, I never saw Bronny James play until he showed up in the NBA.
What's interesting about this is following this one scenario, Stephen A. Smith would continue his press tour.
Rather than come up to me at courtside, all you had to do was say, yo, I need you to see you after the game. That's all he had to say to me. He says that. Let's take an example. He said what you just said. Yeah. I stand down. And not only that, I'm going to make sure I go on the air. I ain't look at it that way. You said you f***ing with my son. No, I wasn't. I was talking about you. I was talking about you. Wasn't about your son. I know he got work to do. I believe that he got potential to go pro. I truly believe that. It's going to be tough. But I think he could pull it off. And by the way, I'm rooting for him. I ain't rooting against nobody.
And it seems like he was doing everything he possibly could to keep this story relevant until Bronny would have his career high in a game where Stephen A. Smith would switch up and say that he supported Bronny all this time.
What did you think of Bronny's performance last night?
I was very impressed because I saw an elevation in his level of confidence. It didn't really faze him. He didn't look as nervous as he had looked in previous appearances on the basketball court. He looked like somebody that belonged. I might have been wrong. My position was all along, Bronny James needed to be in the G League. Let him be in the G League his first year. And then after that, let him come on, because I've always believed.
Now this set the stage for something that I think was very unique, because on this channel, historically, we've discussed how LeBron James is like a puppeteer whenever it comes to the media. I mean, Skip Bayless quite literally made a career bashing LeBron James, but LeBron James never took the bait, and he never responded to Skip Bayless even once. But this is different. I think Stephen A. Smith hit LeBron James in a spot where he has no choice but to clap back. And the way that he clapped back was very unique. An example of LeBron James being a master manipulator is exactly what he pulled off last year when the Los Angeles Lakers were eliminated from playoff contention. It was very clear that LeBron James wanted multiple things from Lakers brass. He wanted a brand new contract. He wanted the Lakers to hire JJ Redick. He wanted the Lakers to dramatically improve the roster, and he wanted the Los Angeles Lakers to draft his son Bronny. And he slightly gave the Lakers an ultimatum. He did this primarily by showing up to the Cleveland Cavaliers playoff game, and he entered the arena in the middle of the game, making a grand entrance and making sure the announcers and the cameras were on him as he entered. Now obviously this is my own speculation, but this is a clear message to the Lakers that if you don't do what I want, then maybe I'll consider signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Eventually we know what would happen. The Lakers would grant all of LeBron James's requests, except they weren't able to vastly improve the team until Nico Harrison decided to help them at the trade deadline. And LeBron did something very similar here. At this point, you guys should know the #1 competition for Stephen A. Smith on his own network is Pat McAfee. It's not that these two don't get along, they're more like respectful adversaries of one another. Stephen A. Smith represents the old school way of a sports talk show, where he pretty much gets a panel of people together and yells at a bunch of them, something that relates to sports, and hopes that some hot take circles social media and gets a significant amount of clicks. Pat McAfee is more of a new age show. It's a little bit more relaxed. The show revolves more around their personalities, they're way more unfiltered, and guests are way more comfortable going on their show, primarily because Pat McAfee doesn't typically talk poorly about any of the players. So he has great relationships with most of the players, and the fact that he used to be part of an NFL locker room as one of the best punters of his generation also makes other athletes comfortable, because this is an ex-athlete interviewing them. He knows what it's like for press to overstep their boundaries. So the fact that LeBron James went on Pat McAfee's show, who is Stephen A. Smith's biggest op, to be the biggest sports story of that day and give a tell-all interview for an hour and 15 minutes is so LeBron James. It is a crazy chess move in of itself, but that's before we get to what LeBron James said on the Pat McAfee show. And the way he clapped back at Stephen A. Smith was incredible.
Yep.
Which leads obviously to you and Stephen A.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, we're watching it. We're all seeing
It started off with, I didn't want to address it. I wasn't going to address it. Since the video came out, I feel the need to address it. Are you kidding me? If there's one person that couldn't wait to the video to drop so you can address it, it's your like, seriously, I think a lot of the media, including him, he's gonna be smiling from ear to ear when he hears me talking about it again. Oh my God, like, relax, bro. Like, relax.
Now, the top comment on Pat McAfee's clip, at least on X, is that LeBron is too scared to go on First Take. But the thing is, that's the beauty of this chess move. He doesn't want to give Stephen A. Smith this interview. He wants to give it to his biggest op. We have a completely separate video coming out, by the way, in regards to how the NBA media has just been really bad lately. And I wanted to originally include this in there, but that video is very long and I felt like it deserved a separate video in of itself. And I wouldn't be able to include this in that video until way later. So I decided they should be two separate videos. But what's interesting is this isn't the only thing that LeBron James would comment on the Pat McAfee show. I highly recommend you guys go watch the interview. It's an awesome interview. Like, McAfee asked some crazy questions. There's a reason why his jersey's on my wall. I mean, he asked LeBron James about how much money he spends on his body.
There was that saying, what, you spent like $1 million on your body or something.
Man, I don't know where the hell that shit came from.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very fair assessment.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
And LeBron James even commented on how Giannis Antetokounmpo would dominate in the 1970s.
Tell me Giannis wouldn't be able to play an NBA game in the 70s. Giannis Antetokounmpo would have 250 50 points in a game in the 70s.
And well, of course, Stephen A. Smith couldn't help but take the bait and clap back at LeBron James for what he said on the Pat McAfee show.
Here's the problem with what LeBron James did. It's still disrespectful to the previous eras, and there's no call for it. And so when he does what he does on that level, that's him passive aggressively yet again finding a way to take shots because inherently he has a problem with himself being compared to dudes from previous eras. The previous eras are what enables you to be who you are. What would we have been if it were not for Stuart Scott? What would we have been, doggy, if it were not for the Dick Vitales? Every single era you point to has a previous era that paved the way. And so I'm just saying that when you allude to the previous eras and you do so in that kind of way, what you're doing is showing a disrespect sprinkled with resentment because you hate the fact that people are able to point to a previous era and talk about what you're not.
And while some people would say that LeBron James is being disrespectful to the previous eras of the NBA, there's some things you need to keep in mind. One, the 1970s is without a doubt the worst era in NBA history. It's an era that the NBA doesn't typically celebrate. It's an era that the NBA actually wants you to forget. This is the era before Kareem Abdul-Jabbar came into the NBA. Will Chamberlain would retire around 1973. I mean, the NBA didn't really have solid stars. There was a substance problem in the NBA at the time, and just generally good basketball was not being played in the 1970s. So to say that Giannis would average that amount of points during one of the weakest points in NBA history isn't disrespectful at all whatsoever. But even furthermore, even if you happen to be a basketball purist and believe that the 1970s were the greatest era in NBA history, which would be absolutely false to say, by the way, even if you felt that way, and even if you felt like LeBron James was disrespecting the older eras of the NBA, you have to remember how a lot of old heads are coming out and consistently disrespecting the current era of the NBA.
You can't hand check, you can't contest shots.
Really heavily weighted right now with a three-point shot.
You get close to the basket, a lot more of your shots will go in.
Nobody in this era has a mid-range.
You couldn't get no. Then y'all exhaust the ball. Y'all are dribbling the air out of the ball.
Nowadays, what you're seeing, guys pump fake and step sideways, on the three-point line, and you're making it a tougher shot.
If I was to play in this era where it's wide open, if I can average 33, I'm gonna just take it up to 43. I know 10 points more.
I agree with that.
You have guys standing out there heaving up threes that's really not three-point shooting.
And by the way, LeBron James wouldn't only comment on Stephen A. Smith, he would also call out Brian Windhorst, who is an individual that made his career off of LeBron James as well, although in a more positive light. I've made fun of Brian Windhorst before for switching up consistently to appease LeBron James in his camp.
From my understanding, he's only going to play in the South Bay Lakers home games, that he's only going to kind of be a part-time G League player. I've now, on this particular instance, I think that's gone too far.
1 week later.
What I said was that I am totally on board with the whole Bronny James thing with the Lakers. I think it was a smart move to draft him.
And LeBron James just lays the smackdown on Brian Windhorst here as well.
Like I seen Brian Windhorst.
You guys played together in high school.
Says he's like my best friend. These guys are just weird.
All in all, I think this is an awesome interview by LeBron James. He was very selective and calculated in regards to when and who to give this interview to, and I think he chose the perfect person to give this interview to. Just like LeBron James predicted, Stephen A. Smith wasn't just gonna let this fade away. I mean, what could you expect from a guy that's been talking about this over the last 3 weeks? And immediately he would go on his podcast and said this.
That man put his hands on me, I would have immediately swung on him. Immediately.
Now, Stephen A. Smith came out and immediately tried to put out this fire, saying, "Nice try, folks. On my show, I said I would have swung on King James had he slapped me. Like lots of y'all said I was scared he would have done a few weeks ago. I also said immediately after that, I would have gotten my kicked thoroughly by the 6'8", 250-pound Goliath. But folks just left that part of my YouTube sentence out, huh? Okay, have fun." But that's not the only thing that Stephen A. Smith would say on his podcast. He would also call out LeBron James for going after Windy.
I have worked with Brian Windhorst for years. Never once did he say that LeBron was a best friend. A matter of fact, years earlier, it was LeBron who sat in front of the microphones and said, probably nobody knows me better than Brian Windhorst, who's been covering me since I was in junior high school. But that's how he talked about him. Brian Windhorst is an exceptional commentator. He is one of the elite people covering the NBA in this world. And nobody, I repeat, nobody defends LeBron James more than that man.
And to be honest, that's not a false statement. Windy made a name for himself in NBA media by covering LeBron James when he was in high school. And since he was the so-called LeBron James expert, he was able to leverage that into a mainstream position in media.
Y'all have watched Windy report for years. Tell me one time, tell me one thing that Brian Windhorst has done to negatively impact LeBron James. One. Take your time. I'll wait. Nobody is more fair. Nobody digs deeper, maneuvers through the crevices to find the positive about LeBron James, no matter what the story is. But that's how LeBron talked about it.
Now, you would think that'd be the final time that Stephen A. Smith talks about LeBron James, but then he would go on First Take, and boy, did he have a performance on First Take. I have to give credit to Chris Mad Dog Russo, because when First Take started, he gave credit where credit was due. And that's the fact that Pat McAfee was able to pull off something that nobody on ESPN is able to pull off. And that's getting LeBron James to sit with him for an hour.
Great job by McAfee. You know, getting a guy in there for an hour, that's a great job.
In studio.
Who not want to talk to LeBron for an hour? Windy can. He never come on with me. That's a great spot.
He wouldn't come on with me. No, I don't think so.
He'd probably harm somebody if they even approached him about coming on with me.
But since LeBron James posted this on Instagram on Wednesday night, a video of Stephen A. Smith boxing and captioning a bunch of laughing emojis and saying womp womp womp, Stephen A. Smith had a fire in him on First Take, and I have to admit this is probably one of the most epic crash outs I've ever seen. Stephen A. started out this show by commenting on the fact that LeBron James wasn't at the late great Kobe Bryant's memorial service after he tragically passed away.
I suggest that he be happy with the things that I haven't brought up. You never really discussed why you were not at Kobe Bryant's memorial service.
And I think this is the #1 issue with Stephen A. Smith, and this is why it's kind of difficult to trust him. Sometimes he just goes on First Take or his podcast and just says whatever comes to mind. I mean, this clip surfaced of Diana Taurasi at Kobe Bryant's memorial service, and she was clearly looking at LeBron James here.
I mean, who has a turn-away fadeaway jumper at 11? LeBron barely got it today.
Like, yeah, there's no pan over to LeBron James, but it was very obvious that he was there. And even if you take a look at the excerpt from the LA Times at the time, it even mentions among the Laker-related faces in the audience, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, Phil Jackson, Jerry West, Rick Fox, and LeBron James. So this is categorically false. But Stephen A. Smith didn't stop there. I guess he feels like he got a gotcha moment on LeBron James here as well, because he also called out LeBron James for not attending Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame ceremony.
I never really brought up or discussed why you did not attend Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame induction when that man was directly responsible for you capturing a championship for the first time in your career, even though when people had asked, you had alluded to what had happened with his heart condition. I didn't bring up the fact that even though you couldn't go to the Hall of Fame induction weeks earlier, you were out of the country. But the fact is, you wasn't at the Hall of Fame induction of a brother drastically assist to you being a Hall of Famer because he helped you become the champion that you are.
And guys, look, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James are obviously really close. Should LeBron James be at the Hall of Fame ceremony with the man that helped him win his first 2 championships? Absolutely. But the context tells you everything you need to know. Dwayne Wade was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame on August 12th, 2023. 2 weeks prior to that, LeBron James's son Bronny suffered cardiac arrest. And a huge theme of this content that we've been making is the fact that Stephen A. Smith was able to actually get LeBron James to respond to begin with, but he's getting LeBron James to respond because he's talking about Bronny. So if Stephen A. Smith talking about Bronny James is what's causing LeBron James to respond after Skip Bayless spent his entire career talking trash about LeBron James and he couldn't respond, then do you think LeBron James is going to attend Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame ceremony when his son's life is potentially at risk? But the crash out wouldn't stop there, as Stephen A. Smith would mention that he was here before LeBron James.
I was here before he got here in 2003.
Which I have to admit is just a very interesting flex at this point, and I don't think it's relevant at all whatsoever. I mean, I've given credit where credit's due for Stephen A. Smith's career. The longevity is very impressive, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. And then, of course, Kendrick Perkins had to chime in and try to include himself because, well, it's a trending topic and he wants people to talk about him too.
But stop. LeBron James needs to stop. I'm so sick of him with this how the league is covered because he wanted to be covered a certain way.
At the end of the day, this is a generational crash out over something that really shouldn't be talked about much anymore. And at the end of the day, I think LeBron James has been proving his point about the NBA media and its problems. But the thing is, this isn't just exclusive to LeBron James's generation, because Michael Jordan had an issue with the media as well.
It's attacked in my private life, and I really didn't like it. But I felt a need to come out and express that so you guys can quit hallucinating and taking it further than what it is.
At the end of the day, the media is always going to do what it's doing. It's always going to criticize players. It's always going to be dishing out hot takes, especially in the age that we are now when we've never had more content available to us ever, and we've never had more options to consume our content. I don't see this as a problem going away. The good thing about this generation compared to Michael Jordan's generation is we get to pick and choose which media we choose to consume. If you go on YouTube, you can find many great YouTubers breaking down film and the actual game of basketball. You can find news commentators that actually explain what's going on without trying to give out some crazy hot take just to generate views. You can even find very fun speculative reports of YouTube analysts trying to explain where they think the NBA is heading and why. There's times where I've been able to predict a trade accurately, and there's obviously a lot of times where I'm wrong. You no longer are forced to only watch ESPN. I think that's the beauty of media right now. At the end of the day, I personally find it insane that since I decided to attend the Los Angeles Lakers New York Knicks game and take this video and post it onto X, the story that has come out as a result of it and the back and forth between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith has been so entertaining to cover. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this war between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith? We're gonna have a completely separate video on the problem with the NBA media coming out shortly, but let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this? Aside from that, I don't know if you guys know this, but Damian Lillard's NBA career might be over. They found a blood clot in his right calf. He's already on blood thinners. This could result in Giannis Antetokounmpo leaving the Milwaukee Bucks as well. We have a completely separate video on it. It's our previous video prior to this. I'm gonna leave it in the end screen and meet you guys there. I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.